Hello everyone and welcome to Gog Golf Club here in Cambridgeshire, where I'm going to be talking you through 5 rules that golfers often break. It's fair to say that even the most basic of rules in the game of golf can often be misunderstood or misinterpreted, and it's important you don't fall foul of any of the most basic rules that can cost you shots. So I'm going to be joined in this video by rules guru Jeremy Ellwood. We're going to talk through 5 scenarios that often golfers fall foul of the rules of golf. So without further ado, let's head to the golf course and see what they are. Right, Jez, I've pushed my tee shot on this hole. I'm only 100 yards from the green, and I've got a pretty much clear shot. You see my ball is inbounds. The out of bounds hugs the line of this fence, so it goes behind you there and behind me here. It does. But unfortunately, I've got this out of bounds post, which is annoyingly in my swing, because without it, I'd have a clear swing. You would. Presumably, this is just like a 150 post or a yellow or red stake in a penalty area. I can just whip that out and I'd have a clear swing. Is that fair comment? It's sadly not a fair comment, because this is not treated the same way as a red or yellow penalty area stake, which are usually movable obstructions. So you just pull them out, play a shot, carry on. This is a boundary object under the rules. And even though that particular one is easily movable, that's right, yeah, I can just completely pick it up. Yeah. You're not allowed to touch it because it is a boundary object. So in this particular instance, and this is what a lot of people get wrong, you would not be allowed to touch that. And if you did so, and then played your shot, there would be a penalty. And what would the penalty be? Penalty would be the general penalty, so 2 shots, because you've improved the conditions affecting the stroke. However, there's a small proviso. If you got here and pulled the stake out and someone came across and said, no, you can't do that, before you played your shot, you'd be okay as long as you put the stake back exactly where it was. So that's a clear distinction, because in this particular scenario, I'm able to kind of rotate the position of the post, which might help the kind of line of my swing. Yeah. I'm not even allowed to do that. Not allowed to do that. And again, if you did do that, you'd have to put it back exactly where it was when you got here before playing your shot to avoid the penalty. So there you have it, golden rule number 1, do not touch out of bounds posts, or you'll get a penalty. Now, Jez, another of the most broken rules in golf comes down to identifying your ball in the rough. I've hit my ball in the rough here. Yeah. It's a pretty thick lie. It looks like my golf ball, but I'll just need to check. Yeah. And what is the mistake that a lot of golfers make in this situation? Well, this is probably the one I see broken most often. They'll wander over, just bend down, pick the ball up, have a look, and plonk it back down. Sometimes in the same lie, sometimes in a slightly different lie. But what they're forgetting to do is mark the position of the ball first before lifting it, which you have to do, and failure to do so will cost you a 1-stroke penalty under rule 7.3. You used to have to also get someone to come over and observe you doing the lifting process. You don't have to do that anymore, but you do still have to mark the position of the ball before lifting it. So even if you're just twisting it to find out if it's yours, you have to mark the position. If you're going to get your hands on the golf ball, you have to mark the position of it first. Okay, so it's just a tee in the ground kind of next to it. Yeah, ideally. To do whatever you need to do, so I can see that's mine. Yeah. And then it's very important to put it back in exactly the same place. Yep. Presumably. Okay. Back to the same place and play on, safe in the knowledge it is definitely your ball. There you go, don't make that mistake. Use the tee, mark your ball, and you won't get that shot penalty. Right, so Jez, my ball has come to rest on this road. Direction of play is pretty much straight, kind of that way. Yeah. I know I'm entitled to a drop. You are. But there's a rule here that golfers often get wrong. There's a phrase that golfers often get wrong. This is an immovable obstruction. You're entitled to relief. But you have to find your nearest point of complete relief. And a lot of golfers think that entitles them to a good lie or a perfect place to drop. But the reality is sometimes it doesn't. And in this scenario, this is a great example, because A, if you wanted to drop on the grass, you're not taking full relief, so that's not allowed. Because that's to be stood on the road still, right? And B, your nearest point of complete relief is going to be, the reference point for it is going to be right in the middle of that hedge. And although you get a 1 club length arc from that, I guess you could potentially perch yourself there and play it a bit like that. It would be very difficult. Yeah, you've got to make sure your heels are right off the road. Right. But a lot of golfers say, well, that's not fair. Surely I should bend, let me drop over this side where there's a better surface. But that's not what the rules, you don't get relief from a hedge in the rules of golf. All you get in relief from is this immovable obstruction, and it is based around the nearest point of complete relief, which in this scenario would be reference point in the hedge and
probably no way you can actually drop it. So
yeah,
then you're a bit stuck.
I think in this particular scenario, you'd probably just play it off the road, which you're entitled to do.
You can do that at any stage. The other options, you could take an unplayable drop,
yeah,
which would be going back online or going back to the tee and playing under stroke and distance, or trying to get it 2 club lengths over there, which I don't think is going to quite be enough even in this scenario. So in this particular case, you've either got to perch very precariously on a little bit of the grass there and play it with the ball like that, close to your feet, or you've got to play it as it lies and risk damaging your club a little bit.
Yeah, so I think the key takeaway here is in golf, it's not always the nicest point of relief.
No.
You've got to take the nearest point of relief, and sometimes it puts you in a bit of a tricky spot. Oh,
Ooh.
That's gone miles right.
Yeah.
There's some thick rough down there. I think I'm just going to hit another one, Jez.
Okay, now in this rule about often broken rules, this is probably a number 2. All you've said is I hit another one. You haven't said I'm hitting a provisional ball, and that would mean that that ball would become the ball in play. So even if you found the first one in a reasonable spot, you wouldn't then be able to play it.
Right.
Now, you don't actually have to say specifically the word provisional. It's a good idea to, probably. You just have to hit another one and say, I'm going to hit another one in case I can't find the original. You've got to say any phrase that conveys some doubt as to whether you're going to find the original. If you just say, I'm hitting another one, or I'm going to reload, it's not enough. And that would then become the ball in play, and effectively you'd be 2 shots worse off on the hole, probably.
Yeah, I think a lot of golfers do what I was about to do, almost to kind of leave their options open. They kind of...
Yeah, well, that's one thing. You can never choose between balls, as it were, in golf. So you can't, even if your first ball might have ricocheted off a tree and come back into the middle of the fairway, if you hadn't made it clear this second one was a provisional, you wouldn't be able to play it.
Cool. So there you go. Make sure you make that distinction when you're hitting another ball off the tee. If you're not sure where your first one is, always say provisional or something to that effect, and you're not going to get caught out by the rules of golf. Right, Jez, I've hit a pretty good tee shot here, but unfortunately it's just crept into the rough and I've drawn a horrific lie. There's a big tuft of grass behind my ball, and I think in this particular scenario, a lot of golfers might obviously feel a bit undone by and try and gain better access to the back of the ball by a few different means that possibly are frowned upon in the rules of golf. They put their foot behind the ball, use their club, whatever it might be.
Use their club a bit too vigorously to just get that access to the ball a little bit more.
So what do the rules of golf say in this situation?
Yeah, the rules of golf say you can't do anything that improves the conditions affecting your stroke, and 8.1a is the rule you need to look at to see what you can't do, and then 8.1b tells you what you can do. But if you came in here and while no one was looking, just sort of trample that down and suddenly you can get 3 more clubs to it, that would be considered improving the conditions affecting your stroke, and you would be penalised the general penalty. So it's considered quite a bad breach of the rules, because it puts you in a better position than you should be in. Part of the game of golf is playing as it lies.
And there are quite a few scenarios in other areas this might apply. You
might be in the thick rough and you do a bit of excess swishing of the long grass so the club doesn't get snagged up so much coming down. You might be under a tree and there's one particular branch that just needs to be snapped away to let you have access to the ball. You can't do any of that. You've just got to accept what's happened and try and make the best of a bad situation.
So that concludes our look at the 5 rules golfers often break. I do hope you found it useful. If there are any other rules that you sometimes fall foul of, do let us know down in the comments if we've missed any. And if you like this video, click the like button and subscribe to the Golf Monthly YouTube channel so you don't miss any of our other rules videos. But that's all from me here at Golf Golf Club. I'll see you next time.